Hello silver friends, this is Joli from QuickSilverHair, and today we're going to talk about my 5 tips for keeping your gray hair its healthiest. Whether you just ditched the dye, you've been transitioned for many years, or somewhere in between, these tips will help you maintain your beautiful silvers, keep them from getting damaged, and if you're trying to grow the length of your hair out, maintain the healthiest hair at the lengths that you can. So let's get started. Silver hair is slightly more delicate and has a slightly raised cuticle. It can be drier, it can be more susceptible to damage, and that damage can build on itself. So the first step is to control mechanical damage. I learned this when I first started Curly Girl Method back 20-something years ago, and it was something that I found very valuable for the integrity of my hair, which when you control mechanical damage, you are protecting it from breakage, from frizz, from split ends, and so forth. And it also helps protect from raising the porosity of your hair. When you have silver hair, your hair is already in a delicate state. It has a little bit less strength because there is no pigment, and some white hair has no medulla. That hair can be weaker and more easily damaged than pigmented hair. So whether you have straight hair or curly hair, controlling mechanical damage is really important for how your hair looks, especially when it gets longer. The first tip in controlling mechanical damage is lower the speed on your blow dryer. That is one thing that we often do too hard, too fast, and that can contribute to breakage and tangles and so forth. So just drop it down to low or medium speed. Second, you want to use a microfiber towel instead of a terry cloth towel, and you do not want to take your towel and rub your hair. That rubbing can actually cause mechanical damage and frizz. Use a microfiber towel and you will get much better results drying and maintaining your style because you aren't creating mechanical damage right out of the shower. My third tip on mechanical damage is on brushing and combing. You want to make sure that you're not yanking or pulling or brushing roughly. Because that cuticle is already raised, it's going to be more susceptible to breaking with just a tiny bit of pull. If you find that you are brushing your hair and it's snapping with every brush, with every stroke, you probably need to, one, use a little bit of protein in your hair diet so that you can add a little bit of strength to your hair. And you might decide that combing with your fingers with conditioner on wet hair is probably the best way to detangle. Get it thoroughly detangled that way, and then work a comb through or a brush through after it's dry. Mechanical damage from brushing usually comes from starting at the top and yanking your way down. So you want to start with brushing, like I brush my hair sometimes before I shampoo it, which means that it's probably second or third day hair and my curl is probably loose, but I will start at the bottom and brush my way up and detangle it from the bottom up. When you go from the top down, you are pushing all of that loose hair into a knot in the middle. So that's something you want to avoid. If you come from the bottom, you're pulling those loose hairs out where they're naturally already trying to slide out from the bottom. I think you get my point, but being really delicate with your hair with brushing and combing is really key, especially if you want length to your hair. The fourth tip in mechanical damage is a lifestyle tip. So if you're outdoors and you are really active and you like to ride horses or motorcycles, anything that you do where your hair is whipping around, it will cause mechanical damage. So wear a protective hairstyle. A ponytail won't cut it, because if you're doing a ponytail all the time, one, you will get mechanical damage from the ponytail holder, which is another version of mechanical damage, and this part of your hair will still be loose and whipping around. So I highly suggest wearing braids, a bun, something to protect the length of your hair when you are doing these sports or outdoor activities where your hair is whipping around. My second tip for maintaining the health of your hair is learn to clarify and deep condition your hair on a routine basis. When you clarify your hair, you are protecting it from this buildup that can happen of minerals and products that will over time yellow your hair. If you have just ditched the dye, you probably, and maybe not, but most people have not been clarifying their hair because they've been dyeing it. When you clarify dyed hair, you strip the color and ruin its vibrancy. So it's never recommended to clarify colored hair unless you're doing it pre-color, and then, you know, that may be once every month or once every 6 weeks, depending on how often you colored your hair. And your stylist may have been doing it and you never even knew it. Clarifying is a reset point. It can help you eliminate mineral buildup, product buildup, and so forth that can cause yellowing. It can also help with frizz, and it can also help with allowing moisture into your hair, because you can have a coating of things on your hair that can over time actually dry your hair out because moisture is not entering and escaping the hair strand like it should. The second part of this is deep conditioning. When you're done clarifying, you want to follow with deep conditioner to replace the moisture in your hair. If your hair breaks easily or it feels limp, you want a deep conditioner with a little bit of protein in it. If your hair feels very dry, very stiff, very brittle, that probably is an indicator that you may have a little bit too much protein in your hair diet, and you want to focus on a deep conditioner that is moisturizing. So, second tip, clarify and deep condition. I guarantee you will be much happier with the shine and the feel and the manageability of your hair if you add these two things to your hair care routine. My third tip for maintaining your most beautiful silver hair is to use a heat and UV protectant. Ideally, find one that does both, and then you get both jobs in one product. I find that some of the damage that's the most heartbreaking for many people with white hair in particular is heat or sun damage that is permanent and you have to grow it off again. It's so difficult and it's so heartbreaking to have that happen, and it's such a simple thing to protect your hair from heat and UV. First, start with a good product that does both jobs if you can find it. I like 𝐂𝐨𝐻𝐿's blowout cream because it does do both jobs. So when I'm going to use heat on my hair, I use it. And if I know I'm going to be outside and I'm going to be in the sun, I use it to protect my hair from UV damage. The next aspect of heat damage control is turn the heat down on your tools. None of your tools should be over 365 degrees. That is the fry point. That is where damage begins. So no matter what style you're trying to achieve, 365 is the max heat point. So you want to make sure your tools can be adjusted above and below a certain point, but you always want it, max heat 365. Some of these tools that only reach one specific temperature, I'm not a fan of, because you cannot control, you can't turn it down. So even if it says it's only reaching 365 degrees, if you're not monitoring it and it does suddenly get a little bit warmer, you don't know that. And you won't be able to turn it down if you do notice it. So I would suggest that you always find heat tools that have, with your curling irons and your flat irons, you want 3 heat settings at least, or one that actually shows you the actual temperature that you are working with. With your blow dryer, you want something that has at least 3 heat settings plus a cool shot. Cool shot is really valuable for hitting the roots of your hair and cooling the dryer off and preventing frizz. If you have curly hair, use a diffuser. It's a simple and wonderful tool to achieve your best curls. You can use it without touching your hair, or there's many different methods of using a diffuser to achieve your best curls. I have posts on UV, heat, and diffusing. I'll link everything below in the description box so you can check out more of that information. Number 4 is use a shower filter. I learned to use a shower filter probably 25 something years ago. I don't know. We were living in a house with a well that had a high iron content, and the iron deposits were, evident on the hair and the skin. So we installed shower filters. So I've had one basically ever since then. And even now that I'm in the city with just city hard water, I like it to filter out the chlorine. They're incredibly easy to install. You can get your cartridges auto shipped to you whenever you need to replace them. So if you need to replace it every 3 months, do it then. If you need to replace it every 6 months, do it then. The sign that you need to replace your filter is if you open up that filter cartridge and it is discolored, you've gone too far. So you want to back up a month. But they're really easy to deal with. They're not that expensive, and it's a valuable tool to prevent damage that can be really difficult to remove. My 5th tip for maintaining your healthiest hair is to get a silk pillowcase. A silk pillowcase will help modulate moisture balance so that your hair isn't being zapped of moisture, where like cotton and linen can kind of absorb moisture from your hair. Silk actually protects that moisture balance. It also helps with frizz, and I really love the way it feels against my skin, and there are some studies and so forth that it has great benefit for psoriasis, dandruff, and so forth. I have a full post and a full video on silk. I'll link that in the description box below. But those are my 5 tips, and I hope you found them helpful. I really do believe these are kind of the essentials for protecting your hair and keeping it white, beautiful, free from yellowing, free from breakage, and frizz-free. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, shine on.